Get started. Welcome everybody to 52 Living Ideas. We are going through the chapter 18. I think we're starting with verse 54. Yogeshwar is going to present, then I'm going to make a short comment, and then we'll go from there. Yogeshwar, floor is all yours.
Sure. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. We have seen Krishna has taken us on a journey from karma yoga to buddhi yoga towards becoming Brahma bhuta, becoming Brahmamaya. In this context, Krishna is saying that having become Brahmamaya, having become Brahma bhuta, what happens? He is a person who becomes Prasannatma, and he does not desire something or even does not even run away from anything. What does he get to? He gets to my para bhakti. Not just bhakti here, Krishna is talking about. Krishna is talking about para bhakti. He gets to. Then, having gotten to my bhakti, there is, because all these steps, bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyascha tatvatah tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. What happens having gotten to my bhakti? He gets to know me. And getting to know Krishna is something that is marvelous. You can't describe it in a way. You get to know Krishna. Not only that, you get to know how much he is. In the context of how much means how great he is. The greatness of something that is everywhere is so much that it can't even be described. Let alone describing. You can never get to the ends of it because it doesn't have the end. The principle, which is Krishna is saying, the ultimate principle here, which we know is the unmanifest. Anything manifest can have a start and end. We can measure it. If something is not manifest, can't be seen or felt by any of your five senses, think about it. How would you be able to measure it, first of all? And if you can't measure it, then would there be an end and would there be a start? The Upanishads say Brahma is neti neti, na iti, na iti. Iti means thus comes the end. When we say, the Upanishads say na iti, meaning there is no end. And then they also say that you cannot get to the atha iti, atha meaning the start, atha pratamodhyaya. You cannot get to the atha iti of what Brahman is, what the unmanifest is. When you cannot get to the atha iti, that is one thing. Now, there are three perspectives to take into account here. One is that you may not have the tools to measure the start and the end, but there may be a start and the end. Maybe. So one thing for sure is that the way we are, we do not have the tools. Then the second perspective is that maybe we can get to a state of being where our mind also can grasp the unmanifest. We start getting the tools. we get to such a state whereby we may be able to get the start and the end of the unmanifest. The Upanishads also say, no. Why no to that? Because this is the third perspective. You can't get the start and the end because there is no start and the end. It is everywhere. It's all pervading. That which is everywhere, that which there is no place that it is not. That is what Krishna is saying, that you get to know that greatness. And how do you get to know that greatness? Is by getting to know what Krishna is, what the unmanifest is. It is like when we are outside, like when we are outside the ocean, we feel like, oh, I may be able to map out how big the ocean may be. But then when you become the drop and just fall in the ocean, you get to know the vastness automatically, because you also become that vastness. After that, you cannot say that this is how vast it is. You cannot also measure this is how vast it is. It is just an experience of that vastness, of that greatness. And Krishna says, you don't get to know it abstractly, you don't get to know it with just by your senses, but Krishna says, tattvataha. You get to know me tattvataha. Tattvataha means tattva and then taha. Those are the three parts in this. Tat means thy. Tva is a pratyaya that is used after any word to get to know its essence. For example, manushyatva, purushatva. What that means is the essence of human, which is humanity, the essence of a person, that is manushyatva. When Krishna says tattva, he says the essence of that which is. And then taha, meaning that you get to know it not only like as it is, it may be in front of somebody else, or even not just by reading or contemplating upon it, but you get to know it taha, so vastly that there is nothing else to know. And the whole, and in the Upanishads, yeah, Udalaka also asks Shvetaketu, for example, have you known that one thing? Having known that one thing, nothing else is left to be known. Meaning, you get to know everything else just by knowing that one thing. That is what Krishna is pointing towards here, that tattvata. And tato mam tattvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. You get to know me tattvata. And Krishna is using this word the second time, tattvata. And he doesn't even like reduce a syllable or increase a syllable, just keeps it as it is, not even changing the word, as it is, tattvata. Using a word, the same word in the same verse for Krishna. This means that it means a lot to Krishna himself as well. Tato mam tattvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. It gets to know me tattvata, as is. And vishate tadanantaram. He gets into, because in the Upanishads and even in the Gita, the only way to know something is to become one with that. Until you're one with that, you can get to know about it. You may get a 360 view of it, that's fine. But until you're one with it, you get to know about it only. Right? You may get to know one part of it, 3 parts of it, or a 360 view of it, but never get to know it. Getting to know it, Krishna is saying here, means that you get into it. That is when you get to know it. You get to know what the tattva is. Having and knowing and getting into the tattva means it is simultaneous. It doesn't mean that one happens and then it takes some time for the other to happen. It happens simultaneously. One happens and the other has already happened without you noticing it. Sarva karmani api sada kurvano madhyapashrayah matprasadadavapnoti shaswatam padamavyayam. Krishna has taken us from that journey. He's taken Arjuna from that journey. Because Arjuna is a person who will start with Karma Yoga. Having started with Karma Yoga, Krishna has taken him through Buddhi Yoga and through Bhakti Yoga. Now Krishna is starting again, taking him from, because what happens is we have been told what the ultimate is. Yes, this is what will happen at some point in time. But then we forget that we have to start. We forget that we have to start from the level at which we are in. That is why Krishna is pointing back here, that yes, I have taken you through the journey from Karma Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, until there is no path remaining. Because once Vishate Tadanantaram happens, it's not like there's a path remaining or there's a space remaining between you, that you have to take a path towards the ultimate goal. You are one with it. There's no path now. Having told Arjuna about even the diminishing of paths, all the paths, Krishna is saying, yes, now take this path because it will lead you there. Krishna is saying, do the karma. And how should you do the karma? Not only do the karma as you may feel like. Krishna is saying, Sarva karmani api sada purvano madhyapashraya. Do all the karma in the world. Do your swabhavik karma that you're supposed to do, that you're meant to do. How are you supposed to do it? Madhyapashraya. You're supposed to do it, putting it onto me. It is like doing a yajna for Krishna. The karma itself is the ghee that you put into the yajna, and the yajna itself is the ultimate. The fire itself is the ultimate. So what you're supposed to do is to do the karma, because it's going to be with you, and then take the karma, like you take the ghee or you take the dhanya, and then put it into the fire, which is the ultimate, which Krishna is saying, Madhyapashraya. Do all the karma and put it into me. Do the karma and put it into me. And do that yajna continuously. Because using that yajna, which is not a yajna that is of the outside, that is just symbolic, but this is a yajna that yajna was meant to be representing this type of yajna, whereby all the karma is taken and put into the fire, and that fire is the Yajna Narayana, which is an avatar of Vishnu. Mat prasada davapnoti shaswatam padamavyayam. What happens after that? Mat prasada, by my grace, he gets to that padam. Padam meaning that place, which is shaswata. Shaswata meaning there is no start and there is no end of that. You get into a state that always is. Now, padam has so many different meanings. Like padam, one meaning is a step, yes? And then padam also, another meaning is the path that you take, the pathway. Now, Krishna is saying Shaswatam Padam. That means Padam also means that it is a place. In abstract, it is a place that Krishna is taking us towards. Or rather, Krishna is saying that instead of thinking of it as a place, because there is one main root, which is stha dhatu itself. And it is the only root that comes with sthana, which means a place. And it is the same root that also makes up sthiti, which means state of being. So Krishna here is saying that what padam here means is not that meaning of sthadhatu, that is a sthana, meaning a place. It is that meaning that says it is a state of being. Now, what padam also means is the way you're going to reach that state of being. In Indian philosophy, Upanishads, Gita, there are two things, yes, recognized: the pathway and the goal, the sadhana and the sadhya. However, the only time you get to know what Brahma truly is when that which you use to get to Brahman, the pathway you use, also becomes Brahma. An example here is that we normally think about a river and two sides of the river. One side is the material world, another side is like Brahman, let's say. And then there's the river that has the boat in it. And that boat is the pathway we'll use to cross the river. What Krishna is saying here, yes, take the pathway, it's fine. But what should you realize along the path? It's not that getting to the other side was your goal. However, it is that even the path that you have used, even the boat that you have used is Brahmamaya, because everything is Brahman. It is not that Brahman is distinct from the world, or the world is separate from Brahma, or even the path is separate from Brahma. The path itself recognizes Brahma within itself. That is why when in Indian philosophy, when they say that I have gotten to Brahman, and somebody asks them, who is Brahman? What is Brahman? The Vedas will say, Tat Tvam Asi. Upanishads will say, Tat Tvam Asi. They will point towards the Atman. However, we know that the Atman is a pathway towards Brahman. But then, you see, like the reflection in the mirror, yeah? And somebody tells us that is who he is. Now, they can't point us towards the unmanifest directly. So they will point us towards that. We understand that is not what we're supposed to stop at. But the next step that I would like us to take is that it's not only that is not where we're supposed to get stuck. And we have to get past that. We have to see what is beyond that. However, once you get a glimpse of that, once you do sadhana on that, what happens at another level, you understand that sentence at another level is that this is who he is. There is nothing different. Like, this is Brahman, because the path that you are taking is also Brahman. And when somebody realizes that, it is a step meant to be met. It is not that Brahman will be something that you'll receive on the other side. However, it has always been with you. That's why Krishna is saying that gets to the Shaswatam Padamavya. Chetasa sarva karmani mai sanyasya matparah buddhi yoga mupashritya matchitta satatam bhava. So Krishna is now saying that get to doing all the karma. And doing all the karma, what happens? You get to the Naishkarmya Siddhi. The Naishkarmya Siddhi means that all the chitta that you had, all the stains that you had on the chitta are now cleaned out. Now, the chitta in Yoga Sutra means that clean slate, that glass that just reflects what is in front of it. If that is stained, then even though Brahman is in front of it, you can't see. That is why Nishkarmya Siddhi is important, the cleanness of the chitta. Then Krishna says, doing all the karma and putting it into me, what will happen? Buddhi yoga mupashritya machitta satatam bhava. You get to Buddhi yoga, and then your chitta is so clean that you don't even need to do it. This happens. Your chitta becomes mamamaya. Your chitta becomes Krishnamaya. Your chitta becomes Brahmamaya. So you become Matchitta constantly. There's no time whereby there's a difference between your chitta and Brahman. It's constantly within it. Matchitta sarva durgani matprasadat tarishyasi atachetvam ahankaran nashroshyasi vinangshyasi. When your chitta becomes that clean slate and is always reflecting Brahman in itself, and when we say reflecting, it doesn't mean contemplative, intellectual thought, nothing like that. It is just showing the truth as it is, just reflecting what is in front of it, which is Brahman, which has always been there. When that happens, Sarva Durgani Mat Prasadat Tarishyat. By my grace, which is always showering, there is no time that my grace is not showering. However, when that glass is stained, it cannot see what is happening. When we are a mountain, the rain showers upon us, but then we cannot contain the rain. What happens to the rain? It just flows over us and gets into the valleys. That's where it is contained. When we are a type of person who has their backs towards the sun, what happens? The sun is shining upon us, but we have our backs towards the sun. So we never appreciate the grace that is showering upon us. What happens when you become Matchitta? The only thing that happens is your ahankara dissolves. And you have the potential of containing the grace within you. You allow your cup to be empty so that it can be filled with the grace. And what is keeping you from being filled by the grace right now is that your cup is full. There's nothing that can come into it at this point in time. All that needs to be done, all the distractions in the pathway, all the obstacles, they will just be removed automatically because you have a clear conscience now. You can see what is not. Athachettvam ahankara nashroshyasi vinangshyasi. If you do not listen, then you're going to destroy yourself, which is what Krishna is saying here. Now, ahankara and shravana are two things that goes unsimultaneously. Meaning, if you have one, you can't have the other. If you have ahankar, you can never listen to the other person. You can never listen to Krishna. That is a given. You may listen to any other person, but to Krishna, you cannot get it. You may listen to the words, but you're not listening. And Krishna is saying that is the only barrier between you and listening is ahankara, is yourself, is your ego that is holding you back. If you take the ego away, then you will be listening in the right terms. And if you listen in the right terms, you will be able to go from your prakriti, which is your swabhava, and you'll be able to give it a sanskara, a sanskriti. Rather than Krishna, what is saying on the other hand is, if you run away from your swabhava, what will you do? You'll go into vikriti. That is what Krishna is saying, vinangshiti. Yadahankaramashritya nayotsya iti manyase mithyesha vivasayaste prakritistvam niyokshati. If you're always going to use ahankara, you're always going to be in ahankara and take the refuge of ahankara, then what will happen? At this stage, Arjuna is in a state of being whereby it is only ahankara that stops him from doing his duty, from doing his swadharma. And if you think that you will not fight the war because of your, like taking refuge in your ahankara, then mithyesha vevasayaste prakritistvam niyokshati. Your buddhi will feel like, oh, I have conquered. I will now not need to go into the war. But then what will happen? Prakritistvam niyokshati. It is like a circle. The faster you run away from one point of the circle, which is your swabhava, the faster you're getting towards it. That circle is a constant. So the faster you're running away, the faster you're getting towards it again. Prakriti will bring you back. The only deviation from there will be that now your prakriti, your swabhava, will not be able to flower as it would have flowered. Rather, what will happen is it will go into vikriti rather than sanskriti. Swabhavajena kaunteya nibaddhasvena karmana kartum nechasi yanmohat harishyasya vashopitat. Same thing Krishna is saying here, that swabhavajena kaunteya nibaddhasvena karmana. You are tied to your karma using your swabhava, because it is from your swabhava that your karma eliminates. And you may not want to do it right now. Kartum nechasi yanmohat. And it is through delusion, I can see. But what will happen is at a point in time, you will have to do it. Because Arjuna is of a Kshatriya type of person. It is like telling a person who is a scientist, now start, like leave your profession of being a scientist and go into playing music or becoming a poet. What will happen? his own prakriti of science will also come into his poetry at any point in time. And you'll start dividing all those words of poetry and getting each and every word, getting the scientific meaning out of them by dividing them, because that's what his swabhava is. Whatever you go into, your swabhava follows you. Whatever you go into, your karma follows you. Instead of going into another profession, then go into what you're best at. And if you're best at that, then you may be able to flower in that. Rather than thinking that if I am a lotus, I don't want to go into the mud. I don't want to grow in the mud. Rather, I want to grow where a rose grows, in the beautiful gardens. What will happen then is that you are a lotus. You'll not be able to become a rose, but you'll also not be able to become a lotus. You'll not be able to flower and be as beautiful as a lotus, even in the mud.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Yogeshwar. Really appreciate that. Folks, this is the first time in 1,000 meetups that I forgot to record a meetup yesterday. So Yogeshwar was gracious enough to repeat these things. Now, of course, you have to repeat these things many times in order to learn. So I want to give an opportunity for people, if they want to raise any questions about everything that was said yesterday and everything that was just said. Go ahead and type exclamation mark. Otherwise, we're going to start off with the verses 61 through 63. Evanik, I am glad you missed yesterday and you're able to come back and do this today. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not glad that I missed yesterday, but I am glad that I'm able to be here today. So I have a question for Yogeshwar. What is the difference between soul power and ego? Because it feels like they should both be two sides of the same coin, but I would just like to hear Yogeshwar's and yours, your explanation of it.
Yogeshwar first.
Yeah, so the first point you made was it soul power?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not really conversant with soul power or what it means.
What
Sorry.
she's asking is that
Yeah.
what is the difference between soul or atma and
Okay.
ego?
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Soul, I get. Atman and the ego. Now, that is where Yoga Shastra comes in. What the Atman is and what the ego is are two different things. When it is based on your ego, it is called ahankara, means it will be based upon your desires, your attachments. It will be based upon your past experiences about that particular thing. That is what ego means. That is what ahankara means in Yoga Shastra. Now, even though this is what Yoga Shastra says, is that even though your ahankara has been dissolved, still there is an aspect in the middle that doesn't allow Brahman to reveal itself. And that is asmita. What asmita is described as is that which says that the Atman is who I am. Now, that doesn't involve all the attachments and all the desires, but what it has within itself is saying that I am not the Brahman, I am not the vast entity. What I am is this Atman who is differentiated by this body. When that happens is that there is a categorical difference between ahankara and the Atman. However, when you look from the perspective of Brahman, they both stop you from getting to Brahman. That is a similarity. But then those two things are as different as in the example of the glass that we normally give. in Sankhya Shastra is that the ahankara is that which, when you're only looking through the glass and you can only see the things that are past it. However, now your glass is clean and you can also see a reflection of yourself. Now that reflection of yourself is asmita. It's not ahankara. It's not made by the desires of the world, material world. But still, if you get stuck to it, if you get stuck to the asmita, the reflection of the glass, then you're not able to realize the Brahman who is on this side of the glass. You're still attached to something that you're seeing on the glass.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. The way I would put it, Evanik, is in terms of the diagram, center and periphery. Center is Atma. So when you are at the core of your being, you're acting from the core of your being, you are acting from Atma. When you identify yourself with things that you have done, your wealth, your position in society, your habits, your emotions, and think that that is you, you have a false idea of yourself. And you feel proud of that. And you regard that as yourself. So that is an ego which is separate from the center, and you identify yourself with it. So that's how I would put it. Kind of, you truly in the center and you getting attached to the things in the periphery so much that you regard that as yourself instead of the center. All right, let's continue with verses 61 to 63, right, Yogeshwar? Yeah, okay. Let me go ahead. I'm going to read from Sri Aurobindo's translation. The Lord, O Arjun, is seated in the heart of all beings, turning all beings mounted upon a machine by his Maya. In him, take refuge in every way of thy being, and by his grace, thou shalt come to the supreme peace and the eternal status. So have I expounded to thee a knowledge more secret than that which is hidden. Having reflected on it fully, do as thou wouldst. Yogeshwar?
Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddesherjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantrarudhani mayaya. Ishvara. Here Krishna is saying Brahma, using the word Ishvara. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddesherjuna tishtati. He who is the Brahman, who is the principle, resides in the hearts of every, may it be living being or non-living being, everything. Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani maya. So first, the point about staying in the heart of every living being. Now, when we say heart in Indian tradition, the heart doesn't mean the physical heart that we know right now, because that was not the concept at that point in time. What the concepts were at that point in time, one was that there are 7 chakras in your body. So it starts with the Muladhara chakra, and that which is in the middle, yeah, it's not to the left but it's just at the spine, and near the heart, as we know it physically today. In English, they call it the heart chakra. What it is called is the Anahat chakra in Sanskrit. That Anahat chakra, once a person has moved from the chakras, like from the Muladhara chakra upwards, coming into the Anahat chakra, what happens at that point in time is that he realizes that Brahman exists. Because until then, you are on a journey on realizing what Brahman is. You still do not know. However, the teacher, the master, is taking you through the journey. What happens when you get to the Anahat chakra? You get the first glimpse of what Brahman is. You get the first glimpse of what it feels like being with Brahman. When that first glimpse arises, Krishna is saying that is why Brahman has been so much attached to the Rid, meaning the heart, the Hridaya, because that is where you perceive what Brahma even may be. Because before that, it is either just words or it is just activity that you have to do, or you just have to maybe have the Shraddha that Brahman exists. However, when you get to the point of getting to the Anahat chakra, which is the Hridaya chakra, the heart chakra, there you get to know what Brahman is. And by getting to know what Brahman is, what he does, what his greatness is, at that point, you are in no any other place in your body. You are in your Hridaya. When you are in your Hridaya, you get to know what Brahman is. And how it is explained, like not in the Yoga Sutras, but in the subsets of other Yoga Shastras, is that there is a Kamala, there is a lotus in two places, in three places actually. So one lotus is at your navel. When the Anahat touches your navel, then that lotus, from being adhomukh, meaning that lotus is pointing downwards and it is closed. Like think of a flower which is closed and it's pointing downwards. What happens when you get past the navel chakra is that lotus itself becomes urdhvamukha, meaning it points upwards, it faces upwards, and it opens, meaning it flowers. In today's times, we can call it flowers fully. It becomes a full lotus. After that, there is another place where the lotus exists, is the Hridaya. In that place also, the lotus is adhomukh. It is facing downwards. When you get to the heart chakra, when you get to the Anahat, what happens is that lotus becomes urdhvamukha and it flowers. It becomes a full-fledged lotus. In that place now, when you are there, you get to know what Brahman is, because that lotus now is directly linked with the lotus which is said to be in the Sahasradala, in the last chakra, which is at the top of your head. It is directly linked to that now, because it's now Urdhvamukha. That is why Krishna is saying that Brahman resides within your heart. Because until you get to that chakra, you do not know what Brahman is. Another thing to know about Brahman staying within the Rid Desha, in even normal perception, it is your Anahat chakra that does all the little minute, even like tuning all the other chakras. That is the Anahat chakra doing it. It's not any other chakra. Anahat chakra is the main chakra. It is in the middle, in a way. It's in the middle of the chakras above and the chakras below. When we say it's in the middle, it is that which stimulates between the chakras above and the chakras below. When you've left the chakras below, you've come to that Hridaya Desh. Then you get to know what is above the chakras. You get a glimpse of it. And even though you've not gotten to any of the chakras, even your Kundalini is just there, what happens at that point in time is that if you can fine tune your Hridaya chakra, you may not do it exactly well, but if even your teacher or your master can fine tune your Hridaya chakra, then it will be so easy for you to get there from the Muladhara chakra. The third point I would like to make is what the chakra is called is Anahata. And the other name for Omkara is also Anahata. What Anahata means is that it does not come from clapping your hands. Clapping your hands means that it is Ahata. It comes from two things banging onto each other, or it comes from something having friction with something else. So it needs two things there. Ahata means two things coming into sanyoga, joining together, and then a sound being produced. Or two things separating and a sound being produced. Meaning ahata needs two things to be there. It can't happen from one thing. Anahata, however, it means that there is no need for two things to be. Just Brahman being there, the Omkara is there. When you get to the Riddesha, you get the first glimpse of the Anahata Nada. You get the first glimpse of the Omkara. And even the Yoga Sutras say, Tasya Vachaka Oma. What Omkara is Tasya Vachaka. Tasya meaning Tat, which is the Brahman. It is what Brahman is. The Omkara itself is the Brahman. When you get to the Hridaya Chakra, you get to know what the Omkara is. And getting to know what the Omkara is getting to know the Brahman. That is what it means that the Brahman is within your Hridaya, is within your heart. And what does he do staying in your heart? Because that is the first place you'll start realizing Brahman. And as I told you, the first place you start realizing Brahman is also like, because there is no start and end to Brahman. So the first place you start realizing Brahman may also be the last place you realize Brahman, but you know Brahman in his entirety. Because the pathway you use to get to Brahman is also Brahman. What does Brahman do staying at the heart of any person? Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani mayaya. Because Brahman is not somebody or something. Brahman is the universal principle. It is the principle. What does Brahman do? The law does what it's supposed to do. It is like any law that has always existed. And the first time it is revealed, it reveals something more than itself. It can't be truly revealed by the words, but it gives you a glimpse of what it truly is. Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rodhani maya. Because that is what is supposed to happen. Your prakriti, which is maya here, your prakriti will take you towards the things that you're supposed to do. It is like saying, why do you choose a specific type of breakfast in the morning? It is not just totally random. It's not like you just wake up one day and start doing something else. There is a strand of prakriti within it. Like maybe you got captivated in an advert, maybe to have a certain type of breakfast. Maybe somebody else captivated you to do something. And it is not only that somebody else influences you, but then how do you get influenced by something else? Because you don't get influenced by everything. You get influenced by particular types of things. Why is that? It is because your prakriti, your swabhava is always there to determine what do I get captivated by? What do my emotions resonate with? And what do my emotions not resonate with? That prakriti is always there to determine what you take into your life and what you leave out of your life. That is what Brahman does. So what should you do now? Tameva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyati saswatam. What should you do then? Go to that universal principle. Take refuge in that universal principle. And don't only take refuge only by your mind or only by your emotions or only by your karma. No, don't only say that I will do karma towards Brahman, but I will contemplate upon something else. My emotions will be driven towards something else. What Krishna says here is Sarva Bhavena Bharat. O Arjuna, go using all the faculties that you have, that you understand. Not only karma, but also use the buddhi that you have. Also use the bhakti yoga that you have. Use all the perspectives of your own being and point it towards Brahman. Because that is the only one thing that deserves to be taken refuge within. Why take refuge in Brahman? Because Brahman is like a universal principle. It is like a law. If you get to know all the nitty-gritties of that particular law, of that particular principle, then you are able to transcend that law. Because Maya, your Prakriti, is always taking you places. Once you understand it, then you can transcend beyond Maya. You can transcend beyond your Prakriti even. However, if you run away from your Prakriti, what happens is you get attached more to your Prakriti and attached in all the Vikrut ways of getting attached. So understand the law, understand the principle, and transcend beyond it. Don't run away from it. And what will happen is tat prasadat param shanti sthanam praksasi shaktitam. By the grace of Brahman, of Ishvara, you get to the param shanti. You get to that sthanam, which is shasvata. You get to that state which is always there, which has never been, like there's no place void of that Brahman, but you are not in that place right now. You are not in that state. You have to get to that state of being. When you get to that state of being, then There is nothing else for you to do. You are there. How will you get there? Not by your doing, because if something could be gotten by your doing, if something like Brahman could be gotten by your doing, then it means that you could make up Brahman. You could go towards Brahman. And Brahman is not so vast. Brahman is something that you can perceive right now. Even. Brahman will become something that is even lower than you in perspective, because you're able to get towards it. You're able to figure it out. How does it happen then? Not by you going towards it. You can only open up towards it and it just showers upon you. That is what you can do. Iti te jnanamakhyatam guhyat guhyataram maya vimrishetadasheshena yathechasi tatha kuru. I have told you all that has to be said. I have told you everything from all the pathways, everything that can be said. And what does it result into? It results into those words, the set of words that includes the even secretive than the secretive. That is what these words are. And it is not only secretive in the mode by that they're not told in the open. No. The secretiveness in this is that even though they're told in the open, they can't be grasped because it's not intellectual that you can grasp it. It is not just emotional that you can grasp it. And you cannot also just grasp it by doing all the actions that we do in the world. No. It is secretive because you can do everything around it. But if you don't have Krishna in front of you, revealing it to you, you never really get to it. That is why it is secret. It is not a secret in the way we know secrets, that if it is untold, it is a secret. But this is a secret because Krishna has put it into another category, more secretive than any other secret. This is the reason, because however much it is told, it can never be grasped if it is not revealed by a person like Krishna. And Vimrishaita Desheshana, what you're supposed to do is Vimrishya. Use this knowledge and ponder upon it. Go side by side it. Take it again and again into you. Don't only say that, oh, I have received it and everything has been done. No, there is still work to be done. Because what happens is when the master takes you on the journey, when Krishna takes you on the journey, you get to even the last point, to the end point. But what is it? It is Krishna taking you. When he leaves you, yeah, when he leaves your side, what happens is you instantly come back to where you were in the first place. You've seen the whole journey, you've seen the whole pathway, but now you're back where you were. So what do you have to do is know that you have been revealed to a truth and now walk that path. That you have to do. That is what Krishna is saying, Vimrishyate Dasheshana. And since Krishna has showed him the whole path, now he's telling Arjuna, Yathethasi Tatha Kuru. Do as you wish. Now, this do as you wish is not, first of all, is not according to the normal trends that we get, that you have to do as Krishna says. If not, you do not get there. Krishna is allowing you to be. Krishna is allowing you to perceive your own swabhava. It's not that he's binding you into something. Krishna is giving you free ground. However, it's also not something that we may perceive like Krishna is just allowing you to do anything. What Krishna is doing eloquently here is that he has taken Arjuna through the path, which Arjuna also can see that it is the greatest path to be taken. Now Krishna leaves him onto his state and then says, if you have seen the greatness of this path, then walk upon it. If you have seen the greatness within Brahman, within all the words that I've told you, within all the steps that I've taken you upon, then take the path. And when Krishna says Kuru, it means that Arjuna has to do something. Arjuna has to leave his ego. Arjuna has to leave his ahankara and get on the path and do as his swabhava demands, do as his prakriti, so that he can get to his samskara, so that he can get to that lotus that is fully flowered and open, and it can give out this scent that goes not only around the lotus, but like Krishna, Krishna's scent is not only where he was born or where he did his karma. Krishna's scent goes pervading all through the universe.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. All right, folks, it's time for questions or comments. Go ahead and type exclamation mark. You would like to offer, ask questions or offer comments. We're going to start with Ella. Ella, go ahead. Ella, you need to unmute.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you very much. I do see that this is is a journey, a lot of work involved in the process of I won't say becoming, I don't think that's the correct word, but perhaps well, that's why I wanted to ask you, both of your opinions. Jiddu Krishnamurti talks about, meditation, in his opinion, is still striving. And striving means measurement, which is still in the process of becoming, which is thought. And he says that this higher connection that is being discussed, concentration he's calling it attention. And concentration is not attention. Effort is also not attention. He says attention can be gained if the mind is silent and has space and is open to the universal mind. Because the universal mind in silence and space has an opportunity to contact the brain, possibly, which also is in operation in humans. And we can see things on a whole different level than we normally do in our ego. And mind knows things, deeper things. And our brain tends to stimulate itself and go around and around replaying memory. And then we never have that deeper insight and that connection. So I guess the big concepts are universal mind, And can that help to be in silence and space? He's not against meditation at all. I know he had a lot of training, but I'll turn it over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ella. Thank you for bringing up, J. Krishnamurti. Yogeshwar, are you familiar with J. Krishnamurti, and even if you're not, anything you want to comment on what Ella said?
Yes. So I have come across his books and I've read his books and listened to him, like his videos and stuff. But there are two things here in perspective. Is that yes, he's talking about being. Yes, that is fine. But then what happens is that just paying attention, it is fine. But then there are also these little steps that need, like Krishna has taken Arjuna on the pathway. Like, do this. If it doesn't resonate with you, then do this. Then do also this. However, what I have perceived from Krishnamurti is that don't use any steps, because the steps are all illusory. You may get attached to the steps. So what you should aim for is just being, like aim for the last step only. It is fine to do that. But then when you remove the steps from in between, this is how I see it. If you remove the steps from in between, which Krishna is giving Arjuna, that you can use this, and this is how you will reach there. If you remove the steps from in between, then there's no way of perceiving what the ultimate may even hold. It's like saying that let's remove all the chakras from within, from in between, and say from the Muladhara, you get to the Sahasradal directly. Now, it may happen, like it is like maybe in 100,000, one person, it may happen. But for the mass, like for the most of the people, what will take place is that they will not even be able to reach. So what Krishna is giving is a more integrated way, is that use the tools that you have right now, but to use them in a particular way that takes you, like if you're using karma, don't do karma, do karma yoga, because it will take you to nishkam karma. If you're doing buddhi yoga, don't use your buddhi only, do buddhi yoga. And even in bhakti, don't only use love or devotion, use love in the perspective of yoga, like make it a yoga and allow it to transcend beyond what you've started with. Like allow yourself to get into the boat. What Krishna would say in this perspective is, get into the boat. However, when you're in the boat, you'll realize that both sides and even the boat itself is Brahman. What I see Krishnamurti as saying is that you don't need to use the boat. Yeah, even this side is Brahman, like just know Brahman. However, removing that step feels like, will anybody ever get there? That's how it feels for me.
Wonderful. Let me ask you one question about just the word yoga. Can you talk a little bit about what yoga means? Because you talked about karma yoga as opposed to just karma and so on. So just talk a little bit about yoga.
Yes. So yoga is so many ways of defining yoga. So it can come from so many derivatives, even more dhatus, like it has different meanings. But the normal meaning that is mostly taken is yoga means some yoga, like the main perspective of yoga that is taken is some yoga. Some yoga, as we know even in Hindi, means that the joining of. Now, when we talk about the joining of or the becoming one of, that is what yoga means. Now, when we talk about joining, yoga doesn't mean the oneness. Yoga means that process, that it takes. That's why all these paths are called yoga. It is that process that you take. When we talk about being, what Krishna talks about being is being, that is fine, but also takes into perspective the process that it takes to get to being. So he's talking about these two different levels, and then also combining them, whereby Krishna is saying that even the process itself, you can realize the being within it, you can realize the Brahman within it.
Thank you. Now, I'm not that familiar with J. Krishnamurti. For people who are not familiar, he's one of the more, he's the modern philosopher in the, who worked in the 20th century. I would just say that, Gita is far more expansive in terms of it explores different paths and different things that happen to you in far greater detail, and it provides many different paths, and it's very user-friendly in that way, human-friendly in that way, of saying you can do this, or you can do this, you can do combination of this. If this doesn't work out, you do this. These are the advantages of it. So it is it is designed for anybody. And I really love the end of this verse where Krishna tells Arjun, now do as you would. So it is up to each of us to act. You can learn, and then you act based on your own nature, your own understanding. So I think that is very profound. But this concept of universal mind and your Atma connecting with the universal mind, that is the purpose. That is the purpose. The how that Gita offers is very comprehensive, and it, all the yogas are about all the hows and the nature of each of the hows. All right, let's go with Joe next. Joe.
So I was just wondering, actually, if you can expand on this idea of what it means to, and I know you talked about it already, but the idea of a secret. Like, I still am a little bit unclear what the secret is and what's its implication is.
Go ahead, Yogesh.
The idea of the secret and the implication. Secret here, what Krishna is saying is that it is more secretive than any secret. Now, the normal perspective of secret that we have is that if it is unsaid, it is a secret. If it is not told, it is a secret. Or if it is told only to specific people and not told to the world, to vast majority of people, then it is a secret, because it's only told to specific people who have reached a specific level. What Krishna says here is that this is even more secretive than that, because I may have told you all this, but still it is a secret. Even though I've revealed it to you, it is still a secret. Why is it still a secret? It's because when I reveal it to you, I reveal it specifically to you. Anybody else can listen to the words, anybody else can see it, but then they will not be able to get what I showed you. For example, like showing the Vishwarup Darshana to Arjuna. Yeah? Anybody can listen to the words that have been said here, but will not be able to know what Arjuna perceived at that moment in time, because nobody else will be able to perceive it that way. In the same way, Krishna is saying here that this all that I have mentioned from about verse 45 onwards. It is a secret in a way that even though you will tell it to somebody else, you may say the exact same words as I have said, but they will not be able to get to that same point as you have reached. Why is it so? Because I have taken you through a path that is not only of words or not only of emotions, because I have revealed myself to you. I have shown you who I am. And Brahman is more abstract than even words or emotions. Brahman is something that can be shown, it cannot be said. That is why in Indian philosophy or in Indian darshan, even a philosophy is called darshana. Or even when you get to know who Brahman is, you say darshana. You don't say that I have known who he is. You say that I have seen who he is. You get darshana of the ultimate. You never, it is not about contemplation or it's not about just listening. It's about getting to that stage of being. Or if I could give a simple example, now this example will not be exact, but just to give you a compare and contrast. For example, somebody who has never fallen in love reads a book about love. It's fine he reads about love, but what is written in the book is not revealed to him until he falls in love. You see, what is in the book is still secretive to him. It's like he has not yet gotten to that step. When he falls in love, then he gets to know what is in the book, whether he has read it or not. So it is that type of secretiveness that it can be written, but if you don't experience it, you have not yet known it.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. I'll add one more thing. This idea is there in all three works that we have studied.
Right.
The Gospel of John, the Bhagavad Gita, as well as the Tao Te Ching. The idea is that you have to actually listen. There is a grace falling on you, but then you have to ask for it. It is expressed in multiple ways. So, in Gospel of John, Jesus will say, my sheep hear my voice. Others don't hear the voice. I speak in parables. His disciples ask him, why do you speak in parables? Well, I speak in parables because you get it and other people don't get it. This is a very large issue. This is a large concept in the Indian tradition also. The person who is receiving has to be deserving. Only a person who is deserving. So in the Guru Shishya tradition that we are talking about, the Guru actually wants a student who is deserving, and only they will get it. This is very much true in the Zen tradition. In the Eastern tradition, only a person, when a student reaches a certain stage, he will get that. So part of the secret is that you have to go to it. You have to go, you have to climb up to it. And that's why, so I think that's another aspect of it. Go ahead, Joe.
No, this is a very important concept because initially because in all three of those religions, and thank you for the example, Yogeshwara, you can read love in a book, but you actually have to experience it. That makes it very practical. But the important thing is with the three works that we studied is that it's universally accessible. It's not exclusive. Because there are secrets in other religions, but it's exclusive to a people's usually, that it can be in certain cases. But Hinduism, I'm assuming, is universally accessible to me as much as it is to anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all these traditions, it's like anybody can do it. And this is true of all three traditions.
Right.
It is a lot of work. And you have to ask And as Ella was saying, she started by saying, it's a lot of work. Yes, it is a lot of work, because it is your commitment. Like we're going to be looking at the art of archery. It is a lot of work. To be that way is a lot of work. And it is accessible. So it is a secret in the sense that if you don't put the work, you're not going to actually even see it. You're not going to actually see it. Though you are like Jesus may be standing in front of you, but you will not see him. Even if you have eyes, you won't see. That's the another way of putting it. It is accessible to anybody, but it is accessible to anybody who really wants it and will do the work for it and has an open heart to take in that grace. Thank you, Joe. Great question. And Ella also great question. Thank you. Evanik.
Okay, so my question is going back to yoga for a second. And Yogeshwar, you did a great job explaining that, but the part where you were talking about love and you said make it a yoga. So my question is, and you talked about it being a process. So what is it that you are trying to become, or what is it that you're aiming to become? Like, are you aiming to become like Brahma, or and get to your center, and the yoga is the way to do that? Or is it applying to anything? Like, is your goal love, to be love? And is that Brahma as well? Because Brahma is love. So I guess that's my question.
Go ahead, Yogesh.
Yeah. So what this is, as we have seen, is that because of everyone's own particular swabhava, they have a way of approaching Brahman. And that's why these paths are integrative rather than splitting from each other. They integrate in a way that you choose which predominant path you want to choose. Because of your swabhava, because of your own being, you will be able to get there faster using that path. When we talk about bhakti yoga, using bhakti to go onto the path of Brahman, you need a totally different set of practices and ideas to do that. It's like saying that one person wants to get to science and another person wants to get to music. A person who is getting to science, he needs another type of mind completely, and he needs other types of textbooks. A person who is pursuing music needs another type of mindset, and also needs different types of books that he need to read. There may be books in both places, yes, and there may also be practices in both places. There may also be instruments in both places. The scientist will use his microscope and telescope, and the instrument for the musician would be the flute and the guitar and everything. But they differ, like by east and west. That's how much they differ. So the way we are talking about like bhakti yoga, you never really understand it until you get to the practices and until you get to those particular types of ideas of how to get there. First of all, you should get a mindset of a lover. Yeah? When you have such a mindset, and what the tradition of bhakti yoga has is that everybody always starts from moha, which is a tamoguni state, and that is fine. From moha, what happens is you become shuddha, you get onto karma, whereby you get onto like moha can more be translated into delusion or infatuation. Like you just love for a small time. You cannot love for a long time. Then comes karma, which is rajoguni. When you get to that rajoguni step, you will be able to love more, but you will need something ahead. You will need a desire to attach. And Bhakti Yoga also allows that, like have a desire to attach to your center, but then also allow it to transcend beyond, whereby you can get to the sattva gun of Bhakti Yoga, which is prema. Prema means that state in which you do not need anything to attach, it's just there. You just can love. And then, like all these states I'm talking about, in relation to water now, because that's an example we understand. Like moha is like the tamoguni state, like jada, it's like the ice state. You're just there. You cannot do anything. There's no activity in you. You're just there. When you transcend to karma, however, you can do a lot of activity. Like water can do a lot of activity, but it is in a given state, meaning that it needs to be in a container. It needs to be contained. However, when you get to the sattvic state, which is beyond that, it's like boiling water. It's like that water that has reached over 100 degrees. That state of sattva gun will allow you to transcend now even beyond the 3 steps, which means not ice, not water, not boiling water, which is also sattva gun, but vapor. Now that vapor is not something that you can touch, or it's not something that you can really feel or perceive. Vapor is something that is there, even within our environment. It's everywhere. That is how Brahman is now perceived by a person who is doing bhakti yoga. When he gets to that state, that is his ultimate state. However, they will have all these middle steps within. So to get to know bhakti yoga in that perspective is to get through all those different steps of love, which may start with infatuation and then desire, but then it ultimately gets into that state of loving without any conditions, which is prema. And then when you hear about that, don't think that it only stops there, but that transcends beyond. And in a way, one thing I would like to note is in Bhakti Sampradaya is that whenever somebody reaches that state, they normally just act it out, meaning they sing it out. They normally play it out rather than saying words that may make sense to normal intellect. When you look at their state, you realize that that state in which from they are singing is the state that you have to reach. You do not get it by the words, but you get it by their state of being, rather. You get it from the love that they experience, because that love also leaves a scent onto their environment. And when you come into the environment, that scent has a way of attaching to you as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Yogeshwar. So I'll just add one thing. So Evanik was asking, what is yoga? And there are 3, it's a very simple way of looking at it. You have 3 things. You have your feelings, you have your mind, and you have your capacity of action, physical action. Now, what yoga is in Indian tradition is process for developing each of these faculties so that you can go towards the center. So the thing that Yogeshwar talked about in detail was about bhakti yoga. So that is about development of emotions. There is similar yoga, very, very involved yoga relating to knowledge, jnana yoga. There is similar principles that are there for karma yoga. So these are all three different, very elaborate systems, processes of how do you do the right thing to move towards the center, using your physical action, using your emotions, and using your mind. And each of them is quite involved. I mean, what Yogeshwar gave was a very quick summary, but each of them has a very deep tradition. So like Bhakti Sampradaya will have their own ways of singing, and when do you sing, and how do you pray, and what is, so just a whole range of things. Similarly, Jnana Yoga would involve what do you read, when do you read it, how do you discuss it, how do you think about it, so each of them is quite involved. So in that sense, they are processes, they are ways, they are methods of developing these faculties towards your goal. So that's what I wanted to add. All right, let's go to the next set. It's going to be 64 through 66. So I'm reading Aurobindo's translation, and then we will go to Yogeshwar. Further, hear the most secret, the supreme word that I shall speak to thee. Beloved art thou intimately of me, therefore will I speak for thy good. Become my-minded, my lover, an adorer, a sacrificer to me. Bow thyself to me thou shalt come. This is my pledge and promise to thee, for dear art thou to me. Abandon all dharmas and take refuge in me alone. I will deliver thee from all sin and evil. Do not grieve. Yogeshwar.
Sarvaguhyatamam bhuya shru me paramam vacha ishtosi me dridhamiti tato vakshyami te hitam. We have looked at two levels of secretiveness. One is whereby it is not said to the vast majority of people. That is why it is a secret. Second level of secretiveness, which Krishna said is Guyataram in verse 63, is that even though it is said, even though so many people hear it, it comes to them, still they cannot perceive, they cannot get to what the words really mean. They may get it intellectually and may make the ideas around it, but they don't get to that state of being that Krishna is pointing towards, the Brahman. This is the third step of secretiveness. Krishna is saying, Guhyatamam, the most secretive. Now, this cannot even be compared with any secret. In the above verse, Krishna is saying, Guhyat Guhyataram, meaning it is more secretive than other secrets. Here what Krishna is saying is that it is just Guhyatam, not even comparing it with Guhyataram. It's just the most secretive. It doesn't have to be even qualified by any other secret because it can't be qualified by any other secret. It is just the most secretive as it is. It is like saying, I want to map out how much space there is in the universe. You may say that the space in our galaxy is more than the space that we have within our solar system. That is like comparing it. But then when we say the space that is there within the universe, like the vast space, You can't compare it. It is incomparable. So this is the level of secretiveness Krishna is saying. Krishna is saying that how secret is it? It is not only secretive in the way that it may be said and it can't be grasped. This that Krishna is saying is secretive to the state that it is there always. Not that it will be told to you once, but it is always there, yet you cannot perceive it. How secretive can it be that something is in front of your eyes, yet you do not perceive it? And something is not only just in front of your eyes for some small time, but is always there in front of your eyes. It is that which beats within your heart. It is that which thinks within your mind. It is that which acts through your body. How secretive can that be when it is the one who is doing everything through you, yet you do not get to know it? That is what Brahman is. Krishna is saying, again, I am telling you the most secretive. Listen, O Arjuna, to what I am telling you. And why am I telling you this most secretive? Istosi me dridhamiti tato vakshyami te. Why am I telling you? Because you are Ishta to me. You are my favorite. You are a person who I want to show it to. That is why you'll be able to see. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijhane priyosi me. Krishna is now telling Arjuna. Why is Krishna telling Arjuna that this is the most secretive? It is because Krishna is now revealing himself as Brahman. He's not saying that Brahman that is there within your heart. Because the previous verses were saying, look at the Ishvara who is there within your heart. This is telling Arjuna that look at the Pratyaksha in front of you. If you can see the Brahman within me who is in front of you, then Manmana, put your mind within me. Mad Bhakta, meaning put all your devotion within me. Madhyaji, put all your yajnas within me. Mam Namaskuru, also put all your reverence within me. Bow down to me. What happens at this point in time? You know, there's so many things that happen to Arjuna that are not put into the words, and they can't even be put into the words. But using this, you can realize that Arjuna is not only seeing the Brahman within himself now. Arjuna is able to see the Brahman within Krishna and within everything in front of him. When you see the Brahman not only as a goal, but when you see Brahman as where you are, that which you're using to get to Brahman, when you see the Brahman within that, because what Arjuna was perceiving Krishna as until now is Krishna will tell me what Brahman is. It's like a sadhana. Now Krishna is saying, if you can use the sadhana and say that this is a sadhana, but it's not only a sadhana to get to Brahman. Krishna himself is Brahman. If you can see that, then you can put your mind into Krishna. Then you can put all your devotion into Krishna. Then you can put all your yajnas into Krishna. And one thing that happens that is like most impressive about the whole of Gita is Mam Namaskuru. It's like, in one perspective, when you see that Krishna is telling Arjuna, Mam Namaskuru, it's like bow down to me. One perspective about it is that Krishna has all the ahankara that can be said in the whole world. That's when he can say that, bow down to me. It's like a king telling his subjects with all the ahankara, with all the ego, bow down to me. Now, another perspective that if you can look into the Gita is that not only bowing down to somebody's ego, because that's when somebody will say, bow down to me. However, Krishna is saying this when he is one with Brahman. Actually, at this point in time, Krishna is not there. Only Brahman is there. And it is Brahman who is saying this. Because whatever Krishna has said before, like, put all your karma into Brahman, allow yourself to become a vessel. Krishna is himself right now, a vessel. And he's saying that I am not saying anything. It is Brahman who is saying everything. And since Brahman is saying everything, bow down to the Brahman you're looking at in front of you. When Arjuna is able to listen to that and know what it truly means to bow down to Krishna, Mam Namaskuru truly means, then he's getting the essence of what Krishna is saying, of what the most secretive thing is. Mame Vaishyasi Satyam Te. Mama Eva Eshyasi. Only desire me. What Krishna is trying to say here is, one thing is about desiring in the way we know. Like we desire because we want to get somewhere. But now Krishna is saying, Brahman is in front of you. When you're desiring it, it is like Nishkam karma. You're doing a karma without the karma within itself. You are desiring without any desire within itself. Now, this may feel like it's paradoxical. It's like doing one thing without itself. How can you have desire without a desire? It is the same way Krishna is saying, do karma without doing karma. Because he's saying neshkarmya karma. Neshkarmya means without karma. And that is the type of karma you're supposed to do. It's void of all the karma that we know right now. But it is still something which is karma. That is what Krishna is saying here, is desire me. When you're desiring me, you're basically removing everything that comes with desire. Because with desire comes the future. With desire comes something that you're not getting right now, but you're getting in the future. What Krishna here is saying is desire something that is there right now. Something that cannot happen with the normal desire we have. It's like Neshkarmya karma cannot happen with how we perceive action right now. The same way, that desire cannot happen when Krishna is pratyaksha in front of Arjuna. There's nothing for the future remaining. Everything is the now. And if Arjuna has gotten to that perspective of that which is in front of me is Brahman, that which I am using to get to Brahman is Brahman itself. The boat that I had put into the river and rowing it to the other side of the river itself is Brahman. Then Krishna is saying, this is the most secretive, because knowing that Brahman is on the other side may be secretive. It may be held as secretive. But knowing Brahman is there even where you are right now is the most secretive, because Brahman is there within everything. And pratijane priyosime. Pratijane means pratigya. Krishna is saying, I am making a pratigya. I am making a statement. And when Krishna makes a statement, he's saying, priyosime. Satyam te. Why am I telling you? Priyosime. This is Satya. That is what pratigya I am doing. That is the statement I am making. It is the most secretive of all. You can get to Brahman where you are. When you know that, you are really getting to know what Brahman is. Wherever you are, at whichever state you are in, you have Brahman within you. Not just a potential, not like there is a tree within a seed, not only at that level, but fully Brahman within you at this stage, right now, even now. That is why Krishna is saying, know that Brahman is there within the sadhana which you're using to get to Brahman. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchah. Sarva dharman parityajya. Whichever types of dharmas you know, leave them. Because when you leave, the only thing that remains is what is. Everything that is not just falls out. Mamekam sharanam braja. Because when you leave everything else, only I will remain. And when Krishna says I, you can see that Brahman within Krishna. You can see that when he's saying I, Mamekam sharanam braja, it is like saying, bow down to the vast universe. Bow down to the vast Brahman that is there, always in front of you, and go into the refuge of that Brahman, who is so vast. But now, if you can see it within this sadhana that is in front of you, Krishna who is in front of you, then Mamekam Sharanam Braja, only take refuge in me. Aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. I will allow you to get void of all the papa, all that which veils you from Brahman. I will just take out all the veils and allow you to be one with Brahman now. When that happens, when you are one with Brahma, you are void of all the papa, sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami. I will take out all the veils. So, ma shuchaha. At this point in time, ma shuchaha. When Krishna is saying these words, just take upon, like, even an example whereby, because this example is so low, but an example has to be given at any point in time. When this example is given, just take upon an example of two people who are in love and they're saying something. Yeah? And one person is saying that, is telling the other person about love. Now, it may not even be intellectually right. It may not be. It may be, but it may not. And then the other person may say that, I am everything for you. And the other person knows it is right. For the mind, it doesn't make sense. But for the people in love, it makes sense that the other person is everything. It is abstractly right. It is not literally right, but it's abstractly right, that the other person is everything for him. So at the heights of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna is saying, know that I am everything. Know that from that love that emanates from you, because we are friends, from that love, know that I am everything and leave everything upon me. Then what will happen? You will not have to do anything about the prakriti that you have or the karma that you're going to do. Everything will just be done. So it's like telling Arjuna, just become the flute that Krishna is always playing, and Krishna will just blow through you, and all the tunes will resonate for you. Now, you may feel that it is the flute that is bringing out all the tunes, but never forget Krishna who is playing the tunes through the flute. So we may feel like we are doing all the work, but it is Krishna, the ultimate principle, which is doing all the work through all of us, which is what Krishna is trying to say.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. All right, folks, so time for questions or comments. Go ahead and type an exclamation mark. We're going to start with Joe. Joe, go ahead.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, this is a more direct way. What happened to my?
This is
Oh,
good.
sorry.
We can hear you.
Okay, my screen went completely blank. This is a more direct way to Krishna. Like you don't necessarily need to go through other yogs. You don't need to go through other paths. That this is just accepting Krishna for, and you're free. Am I understanding?
Yes,
It might be.
in a way, yes, but then this doesn't happen until you've taken the paths, in a way, because this is the last stage that happens in life, whereby you get to know that the pathway that you are using itself is Brahman. It's like getting to the doorway of Brahman and realizing that whatever you've gone through itself was Brahman itself. Now, you don't realize it when you're walking the path, but when you get to a stage, what Krishna is saying here, Krishna is saying that, know that I am Brahman. He who you always wanted to get to, I am. If you can know the pratyaksha, and this is the distinction between paroksha and pratyaksha. The Vedas have always said that Devaha Paroksha Priyaha. Like, even us, like humans, we always like talking about things in abstract. Like, if we want to talk about the unmanifest, the abstract is unmanifest, and it's the principle. Something has to be so abstract that it has to be beyond our mind, beyond our contemplation, for it to be the truth. When you realize that the truth is not only abstract, but is also there in the present, like it is also there in whatever you're doing, whether it's through karma yoga or it's even Krishna in front of you, that knowing that the truth is there in the pratyaksha, that which you can see, is the most, like, it's the most fundamental in a way, but it is the last stage that you reach. When you reach it, you have that experience that this has always been with me. I have never been void of it.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. I will add that this is not a separate way. This is like the final step. This is like, Arjuna has been climbing up on this mountain. Now he's saying you're here now. So it is like, it's the culmination. So that's what it is. It's he's trying to capture the experience of actually being one with with Krishna. Thank you. Next up is Evanik.
Yeah, so something just popped into my head, and excuse me if it sounds a little far off. But I was thinking Wizard of Oz, right? If you think about the story of the Wizard of Oz, and I'm going to combine stories like the classic one, and then there's Wicked, and I'm not Wicked the play. There's a book that it's based off of, and the thing of the story of Oz is that you go through all these things just to realize it was in you all along, and it's not that you're going down this path and you're not going to have trouble, or you're not going to have things happen in life, because things are just going to happen in life. But to me, it feels like when you've truly come to the place where you can bow down and just let go of everything, that's when you realize it's Brahma that's you've been looking for, and it's Brahma that has been with you the whole time, that has brought you through all these different paths. So, and that is what I'm getting from what Yogeshwar was saying, especially with bowing down, because when you bow down, you kind of take a lower position if you think about bowing down. But in some cultures, it's a level of respect, and it's a respect for Brahma, right? You know, it's not even like a respect for Krishna in a sense, because Krishna is in Brahma. So it's just a bowing down and respect for Brahma, and realizing that there is something greater than yourself. And so that's also what I get from it. It's kind of like bowing down to something that knows more than you do, and accepting that that's what's so. And it's allowing yourself to learn so that you could get to the level, because, and Yogeshwar, please tell me if I'm making a mistake right now, but when you bow down to Brahma, it's like when you can become part of Brahma. So it kind of is like, if you look at it from a Christian's perspective, since you brought it up a little earlier, it's like when you sacrifice everything for Christ is when you're lifted up and you become one with Christ. So it's kind of like the same vein. So those were some of my thoughts, and that's why I thought of Oz, because what it is that, you know, you realize that it's with you all along, and it's within you, and it's more like, actually, if you in the book itself that talks about Oz, it's kind of hard to describe, so I'll leave it at that. But I think the whole point of that book itself of Oz is that it's within you the whole time. And, you know, and I'll just leave it there.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
Yes, so I am not really familiar with the story of the Wizard of the Oz, but what I would like to say is that the formulation that you put around there is that was right, whereby you walk the path, but you realize that what you were looking for was not at the end of the path, but it was there all along with you. So that is fine. But then also the other thing that Krishna says is that path on which you are walking, right? Not only that Brahman is there within you, but even the path on which you are walking is Brahman as well. So where you wanted to reach was Brahman. You yourself is Brahman. Even the path that you are taking to reach Brahman is Brahman itself. There's nothing that is void of Brahman in this context. That is why Krishna is saying that, and that manmana bhava mad bhakto, like just take refuge into me. and everything is there. Like you'll realize what the truth is. One thing about namaskuru, meaning bowing down, what is normally told about bowing down is that you have to bow down only when you feel that you are lower than somebody else. That's when you bow down, or that's when you normally bow down. However, in this perspective of Brahman, what is there is that it's not only for that Brahman is great that you bow down, and it's not only for the perspective that you are lower than Brahman that you bow down. However, what bowing down symbolizes here is that you're allowing Brahman to become one, like the Brahman within you and the Brahman that is perceived outside, to become one. It's like you're not bowing down to the greatness only, or you're not bowing down to you being lower than what Brahman is. What you're doing is allowing everything to just become one, as it should be, rather than being a barrier. You know, when somebody is standing upright, it is like a sign of ahankara, it's a sign of ego. Like, I will have a boundary between the Brahma outside and the Brahman within. So that boundary is what you're having when you stand upright. When you bow down, you're showing the flexibility within you. You're showing that allowance for that oneness to happen.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. Does Evanik, do you have a follow-up question? Folks, this is, if you would like to ask questions, go ahead and type exclamation mark. I do want to talk about Wizard of Oz, but go ahead and type exclamation mark if you have anything. All right. Okay, so then let's talk about Wizard of Oz. It's very deep work. Yogeshwar, I know you've not read it, but it's very, very deep work. We'll come to it, but first I'm going to give a chance to Marco. Marco, go ahead, ask a question.
Yeah, is karma like all emotions and thoughts, and what is karma exactly?
Go ahead, Yogeshwar.
Yes, so karma has so many perspectives to itself, not only one perspective. Karma is all the action that we are doing right now, because action doesn't mean something that we're only doing consciously, but even unconsciously. There's so many things that are going on in our body, in our mind, everything. Karma is also that which we have already done. That is also karma. That karma that we have already done determines, in a way, because this is the perspective of Maya now, perspective of Prakriti. That karma, in a way of, like, one example that I would like to give is like an example of probability. In the probability curve, it allows for the karma that is going to happen. That karma that is already there. That is how karma is viewed. So that which you have already made a habit, it has a more likely percentage. It's more likely to happen in the future because you've already made it a habit within yourself. Or the karma that is already there within you, it can manifest in one form in front of you to become an all new type of karma. So karma in this essence is everything that you are doing right now and everything you have done before this one moment that is.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So now, just a second. Did you have a question, Evanik? No. Okay. All right. You raised your hand. So Elena has a question. Elena, go ahead. Quick question. I know that Yogeshwar needs to leave in a couple of minutes. So a quick question, please.
Yes. And good evening, everyone. what is the purpose of Maya? A question to Yogeshwar, because it was revealed in Gita, and I didn't catch it. Maybe I wasn't attending this particular session. And among three secrets here, Krishna is saying, Brahman is in you. You are Brahman. So what was it? What happens afterwards? Would Arjuna need to take an action, or what's the next step once Arjuna realizes that? Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll put it as two questions, Yogeshwar. One is, what is Maya? And what happens when Atma and Brahma become one?
Yes. So Maya is a force that allows you to do anything in this world, because everything in this world, the only force of interaction that we have in between is Maya. And what our normal perception about Maya is that it is something that is opposite of Brahman. However, what I would like to tell you around here is that you may think of it as opposite to Brahman, but think of it like this, that the only way we can get to Brahman in this world, because this is the only way we can get to Brahman, is this world, is through interactions in this world, is through the jnana or the bhakti or the karma that we shall do with Maya. There's no any other way we can get to Brahman. So Maya, which is also said as Prakriti. Prakriti in this essence is that which is embedded within you and allows you to do your karma in a specific way, maybe by your habits, in a short term by your habits, or even by doing new types of karma, which is fine. But what will it be embedded into is your Prakriti, is your Swabhava. When it is embedded into your Swabhava, then you realize that your Swabhava is not something that keeps you away from Brahman. Rather, go into your Swabhava, know it, allow it to fruit. Don't allow it just to flower, but allow it to fruit, become a fruit. When it becomes a fruit, what it is, in essence, is Brahman itself. So that is the perspective of Maya. Then the perspective of what Arjuna will do. After having known your own Swabhava, you get to know what your dharma is, what your karma is, everything. When you know that this will obviously happen out of me, like the Kshatriya Swabhava of Arjuna will manifest at any one point in time in any form. Arjuna will just allow that to happen through Brahman now. Not him doing it, but allow just Brahman to happen through him. It's like just allowing the river to flow through until it reaches the ocean. When you allow that to happen, you allow yourself to become one with Brahman until the end.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Yogeshwar. All right. So now I'm going to do a very challenging presentation of Wizard of Oz and Gita by special request from Evanik. All right. So let's look at Wizard of Oz. Okay. So in the center, there is Dorothy. Okay. And then there are these three characters around, right? There is the lion, whose problem is courage of action. So he is the karma yoga. He is about physical action. There is the Tin Man. He's missing the heart. He's looking for emotions. He thinks he's missing emotions. Okay, so that's about emotions. And then there is the scarecrow. He thinks he doesn't have a brain. He's looking for the mind. So mind, heart, and action are the three characters. And all the three characters think that they are missing these things. Dorothy thinks she's not in the right place. All of them are going to Wizard of Oz. And when Dorothy is in danger, suddenly who comes up with the plan of what to do? It is the Scarecrow who engages his mind to come up with the plan, who cries and says, we have to do this. That's the Tin Man. And who takes the most courageous actions involved? Is the lion. So when you really care about something, all of them had that in them already. It's when you really care about things, it all comes together. So it's a brilliant portrayal of these three axes. This is what Karma Yoga is about. This is what Bhakti Yoga is about. This is what Jnana Yoga is about. These are three aspects of our being. And they could not have done this entire journey by themselves. They have to work together as a team. And Dorothy is the center around which they work together. So so I would love to hear what anybody else has to say about this, because this is, we'll start with Evanique. I want to hear what Evanique has to say. And then anybody wants to comment is welcome.
So, wow. That was amazing. I mean, I thought that was great. I think you are absolutely right. I think putting it in that way, I didn't even have that in my mind, but putting it in that way and having Dorothy as the center, it also makes it attainable. And that Dorothy wasn't perfect, right? Dorothy wasn't the perfect person, but they needed to get her back home. And they didn't want her to get hurt. So because they loved Dorothy so much, and they weren't trying to get anything out of Dorothy, and Dorothy was trying to help them as well, like it was kind of like it's kind of like almost a perfect relationship if you think about it, because they're each giving of themselves. All four of them are giving of themselves to each other to make sure that they make it to the Wizard of Oz, right? And they're going back down this path. They're getting, they're risking their life and limb, and they have to they have to exhibit what they don't have or what they think they don't have. But what they realize is that they do have it all along. And they had to discover it. And it's like, because of love, because of that like universal love, they discovered it because they were trying to help each other out. And they started off being in it for themselves, but by the end, none of them were in it for themselves. And that's when they found out it was within. So it is a truly great depiction. So thank you.
Yes, and home is where the heart is. It's basically saying, just focus on the center, focus on everything, and everything will just come together. So that's wonderful. Next up is Ella, followed by Joe. Folks, you're welcome to talk about this, or you can talk about any aspect of Gita, anything that you want to bring up. Would love to hear. Go ahead, Ella. Just to make sure you can unmute. Yeah, please go ahead and unmute.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Just a quick comment, and then I had a question. On the Wizard of Oz. Yes, they were all trying to discover the qualities they already had, but they ran into the wizard. And the wizard could represent the lack of free will, because he's ostensibly controlling everything, but it's all a guise. It's not for real. They actually did have free will. And the other point would be that maybe Dorothy is not going home, but she's going to God or Brahman. That it's a universal going home. So perhaps I'm being influenced by this discussion. And I would like to know.
Let me go ahead and talk about that, and then I will give it back to you to ask the question, because I want to go ahead and address these. So the point of wizard is that everybody thinks that he has magical powers. Okay, that the magical powers firstly reside out there somewhere. And there are a whole bunch of people. I have the secret of life here. It's outside. Okay, and all of these people, Dorothy and all these three, think that there is nothing in them, that they have to go there in order to get it. And when you actually go there, you find that there is this, pitiful creature who is pretending to be that. And there is nothing, all of it is a show. And then they realize that they actually have it inside. And going back, Dorothy is going back to her own core, to her, and that's where she finds a home, a proper place of being. So that's how I see the Dorothy going home and the visit. Go ahead, Ella. You need to unmute again.
Is objective reality a fact in the study of Hinduism? And how about the idea of the self? And is there a concept of the space before the beginning of the universe? And does that tie into the space in the contact of mind with Brahma, space?
Okay, these are two difficult questions for me. I don't think the Indian concept has a beginning of time. It's like the world is there forever. I don't understand the last one. I don't think I can answer it too well. The first one, can you repeat? It's too many questions. So what is the first one? Can you unmute and repeat the first two questions? I'll try if I can answer it.
Okay. Is there an objective reality in terms?
Okay, objective reality and self. Okay, got it. It's a very, I don't know that I'm answering this correctly. You can ask Yogeshwar again. The way in which Hinduism holds is that there is Brahma, there is objective reality, and you are part of that objective reality. So the way in which Yogeshwar uses uses metaphors to describe it, it's like the ocean, and you are a drop of the ocean. So in that sense, your subjective nature and the objective nature at the core is the same. Now you can have Maya, where you can identify yourself with these salt crystals that you form on the ground, which are separate, which you think are actually separate from the ocean. And that is all about kind of egoism, attachment, all of it. But at the root, it is all one. So that's what I would say. Next up is going to be Joe, Elena, and Mike. Joe.
You can actually skip to Elena. Thank you.
Elena followed by Mike. Elena.
Yes, going back to the previous question and what you answered, you've said that, because I've heard it several times already, don't ask the why question, why is it so? It is so. So tell me please, where does it come in culture? Because if we always here want to know, but tell me what's behind there's atoms and neutrons, but what makes them, like, explain us what's further and further where all it comes from. How and I've heard a lot in India, like they say, no, just don't need to ask why. This is how it is.
Okay, very, very good question. This is not unique for Hinduism. This is the same position for the Gospel of John, Tao, and the Gita. You have to start with it is. You know, reality just is, and it is what it is. You know, Tao is what it is. You can talk about it, you can ask questions about it, but it is what it is the starting point. I am what I am in the Bible. That's where you start. In Gita, Brahma just is. In secular thought, nature just is. And you're trying to understand nature. You're trying to understand reality. But it is always the starting point. So that's what I would say. That's what is common to all of them. That's that you have to start by saying that reality is what it is. Next up is Mike. Mike, you have no mic. Mike, no mic. Okay, all right. So once you get it fixed, I know that you are very savvy technologically, so I know that you will fix it. Once it is fixed, please raise your hand again. Next up is Myron. Myron, go ahead.
Hey, so really fascinating talk. I was just very spontaneously reminded of something when Elena asked her question and you were trying to answer it about we kind of have to take these, I don't know what to call it, but we kind of just have to take these axioms of the universe for granted in order to talk about them. And I was very spontaneously reminded of learning about the way ancient Egyptians thought about why the Nile River flooded, because I can't think of any culture where a single river has been so important. And for the Egyptians, when later Greeks and Romans tried to ask them, why does the Nile flood? Like, we know that your entire culture depends on it, but why do you know why it floods or how it floods? And the Egyptians apparently were like, no, we actually don't know. Even after 3,000 years, they were kind of like, the gods just make it flood. It was the Greeks and the Romans who just kept asking why and how. And well, guess what? Eventually they did find out hundreds of years later. But it really does speak to that perception of some powers are just taken for granted, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Myron. So I just want to make sure that this is a very difficult thing to talk about, because this is really metaphysics. I think that why is a crucial question to ask. But it doesn't really question. So for example, why does Nile flood? I think is a valid, really crucial question to ask, because you're not asking about why of existence itself. You're asking about nature of a particular thing. How is a universal law working in a particular thing? And those questions are really, really important. And all of science is based on that, the whys and hows. And it is critical for human life, for knowledge, everything. If you see, Bhagavad Gita, you will see again and again the questions of why and how being asked by Arjun. What I was saying was that all of the questioning, there is something that you have to take for granted. You can call it anything that you want, just one thing: reality, nature, Tao, Brahma. Everything else you can ask the how and why about. But otherwise, there is just infinite recursion. There is nothing that, so that's what the idea of I am that I am, or idea of Brahma, or thou is what it is, you know, the infinite mystery, in verse of the first verse of Tao Te Ching, it's all referring to that. So I hope that was clear. Next up, but again, it's a very difficult topic to talk about, and I'm not sure I'm doing a good job. Next up is Mike with the mic.
Okay, I think I got a mic this time. Can you
Yes,
hear
you do.
me?
Yes.
Okay, just as art imitates life, or life imitates art, or something like that, we have a situation here that is really, if we say the Bhagavad Gita is really the story about the voyage of a hero, and like Campbell talks about and others talk about. This was not written as a child's tale. This had to do with the monetary crisis. Frank Baum wrote it as an allegory, a metaphor of the monetary crisis that was going on at the turn of the century, which is worse than the inflation and monetary crisis that we have right now. The yellow brick road is the gold standard. The silver slippers also have some meaning. And the cowardly lion is Congress. And the scarecrow is William Jennings Bryan, who had a political and so forth, everything they met there. And the man, pay no attention to the man behind the Iron Curtain, talked to something about something called Jekyll Island, which was where they were trying to control this crisis from.
Wonderful. Thank you.
It's a really, and they wrote this as a children's tale, and it was published in what is now the New York Times in serial fashion.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. All right, folks. So I want to tell you about what the plans are for the Gita meetups and other meetups coming up. So first, I want to have Evanik talk about the meetup coming up this Sunday.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
So this Sunday we will be learning about an Anna and Ishtar. And so an Anna is, I believe, Sumerian goddess, but she is also,
just to give an introduction. So this is a series that Brian are doing on the divine feminine.
Yes, thank you. I forgot that part. I forgot to say that part, I should say. But this study is going to be on Inanna and Ishtar. And this one is unique. Well, she's not unique, actually, because one of the things that we talked about in the first meetup is that myths travel. So this is a story of a woman who I think is one of the most, I would say, well-rounded goddesses, in that she starts off with being very vulnerable, very innocent. And then she moves into being this fierce character who, she's the goddess of love and war, which seems like they're opposites, right? So she's the goddess of love and of sexuality, and but she's of fertility, but she's not like a mothering goddess, right? She's not the nurturer. She's just kind of like, she gets stuff done, right? And so she fertilizes. She's a symbol of fertilization and growing the land, but she's not the nurturing kind. And she's the goddess of war, in that, she's been known to conquer certain kingdoms. She's been known to take them and have them under her rule. The other important part about an Anna and Ishtar, which are one and the same, depending on where, she is called the Queen of Heaven, Ella. And one of the things that she has to do the other interesting part of the story is that she has to go into the underworld to her sister Escogar. Now there are different stories around that. One, she says she's coming to mourn Escogar's death of her husband, and another is that she sit down there as kind of like a punishment. And either way, she has to strip off everything that is her. In other words, she has to strip her external power and stay in the underworld. And she has to do that until her people come and rescue her. Now, she tells them to come and rescue her in 3 days. But what she has to do is she still has to go back and forth, once a year. So that's what she has to do. And she has to go and like discover the shadow side, which is her sister Escorgal. And the other time her husband, I'm going to mispronounce this, but her husband has to go in her place because her husband didn't really try to save her. So as revenge, she's trying to think of somebody that could go in her place. And she doesn't want her servants to because they mourned her. But she realizes, and she's also a very vengeful person, in case you didn't notice. But she has to go, but she sends him in her place to go to the underworld. So that's just a little preview.
Yes.
It's going to be awesome. And it's going to be one of those things where we're going to learn about different cultures and how they see Inanna. And she's a fairly young goddess, but she's one of the most popular ones. So that's a preview for Sunday.
Wonderful. It's going to be Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. All right. So that is one. The next, we are beginning a series on Goethe's Faust. We are going to start, the first meetup is going to be just an introduction of why we should be studying Faust, overview. That's going to be Sundays at 5 p.m. every other week. So we're going to take 10 weeks to cover Faust. And the first one is going to be on the 25th of September. So really looking forward to that. Phil is going to be back leading it. For those who don't know, I mean, Faust is very, very deep, and Goethe is just one of my favorite thinkers. So I think that's going to be really, really special. All right. So now I want to ask you something, because we are going to finish Bhagavad Gita in about 2 or 3 more meetups. We will finish Bhagavad Gita. Yesterday, I asked several people for ideas of how do we wrap this up? So some ideas were, one is Yogeshwar giving a chapter by chapter, key points that we got that are there in the chapter. Secondly, we can have people talk about what they got from chapter to chapter. A third one would be for people to give a takeaway of Bhagavad Gita as a whole. We'll probably start with that. We're going to do one meetup on a book called Zen and the Art of Archery, connecting it up to Zen. It's a great overview of Zen, plus it connects with meaning of Karma Yoga. So those are the things that we have planned. So that's one part of it. If you want to talk about that, you're welcome to do that. The second one is, now I'm looking for what should we be doing next. Mostly Yogeshwar will not be available after about 2-3 weeks. So I'm looking for ideas for meetups, and I'm going to talk to each group, and we'll see what we can do with it. So one is, there is a book that I'm reading right now, which I'm very excited about. I've been studying language. There is a book that I've read about, that I'm reading about good writing, which is just incredible. I mean, I am just stunned by how good it is. It's rare for me to find a book like that. I just found out about it yesterday, and I have already read 1/3 of it. It's called Clear and Simple as Truth. Let me see if I can find it. All right, let me just make sure people can see it. Yeah, it's Clear and Simple as Truth by Francis Noel Thomas and Mark Turner. The subtitle is Writing Classic Prose. It's a profound book. It's not a style book of how to write. It is about how to write, but it is the deepest thing that I've ever seen. So maybe we can do something on that. If anybody has any ideas on anything, we are also starting a series on self-improvement. Jeng and Joe and Evanika are going to be involved. So Joe, can you talk a little bit about the self-improvement series and when it is and what
So it'll be on Tuesdays. At
once a month. Once a month, right?
Once a month, yes,
Yeah.
once a month on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Our first session will be on the 27th, where we're going to crowdsource some ideas. But the ultimate goal of this is actually to look at a lot of the concepts that we've covered here and see how they actually impact our daily lives. So the series is actually titled Designing Your Life. So we're talking a little bit about the design way itself and how maybe people have used it in a very practical sense, but also how the great works. How has the Gita changed you? In what practical ways? How has Stoicism changed you? In what practical ways? How has the Tao Te Ching impacted you? And we're trying to make it so that that it's improvement, but it's also matched up with what we've covered here. So we're taking these great works that we're studying and showing how it impacts us on a daily basis. So really excited about it. We got a core group that's kind of interested already, but we're hoping to grow it, and going to talk to as many people as possible, about other philosophies or whatever it may be. But we really want to make sure since it's self-improvement, we want to make it concrete and not just abstract. So I think I'm really excited about this.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joe. Does anybody else have any ideas or anything? Because I'm going to have space for 2 evenings, Thursday and Friday. What kind of topics would you like to see? So one of the topics I'm thinking about is this language-based thing, and going from there. Go ahead and type exclamation mark if you'd like to offer. We'll start with Ella. Ella, what do you think?
Anything that's around the topic of metaphysics would be interesting. I think that might be interesting to a few people. I also like the writing book. It sounds wonderful that you mentioned. Good writing, clear and simple. And
let me do one thing. Joe, can you put that link in the table? It's called, link in the chat. It's called Clear and Simple as Truth.
Oh, Clear and Simple as Truth. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Ella.
Okay. And I'm looking forward to the topic that you mentioned before, and I can look up the dates on neurology. I like that one, but you already have that scheduled.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ella. Let's go with Evanik followed by Joe. Folks, if you would like to just put on the table whatever it is that you would like to talk about, participate. And again, this is participatory. If you want to lead something, you're welcome to do that. You can talk to me and we can figure something out. Evanik.
I was thinking of, I don't know, the Upanishads. I think continuing with the Indian philosophy. Or something with the Indian philosophy, because
right. So Indian philosophy will say, I would like to do that. I know that I don't know what, I mean, I'm going to talk to Yogeshwar, but I don't think Yogeshwar is going to be available. It's very hard to get something because it's like we've been spoiled, because Yogeshwar, his level of approaching Gita, I mean, that's something else. We might do, Yogeshwar has talked about doing at least one meetup or two meetups on Upanishads. So that's in the works. So that one, let me go ahead and put it here. That's what he was suggesting he would like to do. Okay. Joe, what are your thoughts?
So you're never going to go for it, but I just want to throw it out there.
Okay.
Because you've already done it, so you probably won't be interested. But going through the 102 great ideas, I think would be
right. I mean, I'm trying to come up with things which doesn't require a lot of effort from me, because my time is kind of
right.
Unpredictable. So for example, if we were to do this book, I mean, we can just go chapter by chapter, even if I'm late or something like that, it doesn't really affect anything. So I'm trying to come up with something which doesn't involve me doing too much.
I think something that would be easier than maybe principles with Ray Dalio or something like that.
That's, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think
that's a very good choice. So let's talk about the book. So I think principles, definitely. I think this writing book is really, I mean, it's just stunning.
Well, I definitely want to go through that. I mean,
yeah, I am just, his ideas are so deep. What he's saying is that people don't realize that style is not something that you put in afterwards. Style is how you do things. And it is really your writing style is your thinking style. And there is something what he calls classic prose, classic style, which is very different from practical style, romantic style. The classic style is the style of people like Descartes, people like Thomas Jefferson, people like, I would say even Mark Twain. So people like that, it's like very crisp, very clear, very powerful. And he describes it in such amazing way. He talks about these 5 different aspects of it, or let's make it 6. So he says, first, it is about truth. That it holds, this classic prose holds that there is truth. There are people who don't think that there is truth. And then the style that they will have is going to be very different. The second is about presentation. It's about, what he's saying is that presentation should be such that the attention is not focused on the presentation, but through the presentation, you have to show the truth. So the attention is focused only on the truth. The third one, he calls the scene. That means, what is the context in which this writing is being done? And I think this is my own take on it. Everything he's saying about writing also applies to speaking.
Right.
Next one is cast. And this was really stunning. That style, the classic style, is used as if one person was talking to another person. So you're addressing a human mind, but it's a universal mind. So you are trying to express things which would be clear to everyone, to anyone who wants to listen. Then his point is that there is a distinction between thought and writing. So you think things and then you're writing it out. You're not using writing as a way of thinking things out. You're presenting what you have. Just like when you're speaking, you're presenting what you've thought about. And finally, he talks about language and how that works. So it's just such amazing set of observations. And I'm only 1/3 of the way. I'm going to finish it in the next, whatever, 24 hours, 48 hours. I'm just going to inhale the book, and then I'll go from there. But I think there is just so much there, and I would love to hear what everybody has to say. I think it will improve everybody's speech.
Mm.
Everything that is being said in the 52 living ideas, it'll improve your writing. It'll improve your thinking. It's just so much there. Okay, next up is Evanik, followed by Ella. Evanik.
I don't know if this was done already, but Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
Yes, Outwitting the Devil. We have done it, but we have not done it on Outwitting the Devil. Yes, so if you could look up those videos, we had my friend Chase and Alex, they did a series on Outwitting the Devil. It's on 52 Living Ideas YouTube. It's a fantastic book, by the way. I just strongly recommend it. Even Principles by Ray Dalio, we did it, but we did it when in person. So we had like 60, 70 people show up every time. And we had a joint Google Doc or some documents where everybody had their own notes. So as we were working on it, everybody could read everybody's notes. So that was really a wonderful way of doing that. But great. The other one is Thinking Fast and Slow. That's a book that we have done like in-person meetups on, but we have not done Zoom meetups on. So that's another book. Ella, sorry, Evanik, did you have anything more?
Nope.
Okay. Ella.
Yeah, I like the Thinking Fast and Slow as well. Have you done, I know Yoshiko Kimura talks about systems thinking. Do you know what I mean?
We have done some things over there. I mean, Buckminster Fuller is another person I want to do. I think Buckminster Fuller, I think his ideas are just incredible. I think we've done some, you know, of course, CJ really, you know, he's a, you know, really scholar of Buckminster Fuller's work. So Buckminster Fuller is a possibility. All right, next, anybody else? Any other ideas? Myron, what do you think?
Oh God, I didn't expect to be called on. But I've been recently rereading some of my anthropology course article papers from my past classes.
Mm-hmm.
I would certainly love to bring them up once a while. I don't know about presenting on them though.
Okay, so anthropology. So let's look at that as a topic. Anthropology. All right, so we can just step back and, you know, just in terms of question, like areas, you know, anthropology, psychology, something like that. All right, so what I'll do is that does anybody else have anything they would like to add? Go ahead and do so. Ella, go ahead. Ella, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yes, I know it's been a while since you've done anything on Carl Jung, I believe. So that's very informative.
Yes, Carl Jung, we did about 4 meetups recently.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yes, they're pretty good. You can look up this Jung playlist. I was very impressed. We did the book. I forget the name of the book. Very recently.
Modern Man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Modern Man in Search of Soul.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was wonderful. I mean, I'm always, I think Carl Jung is a perennial topic of interest. We could also do Stoicism, you know. Joe may not
I
like.
was thinking Stoicism, and I was thinking also something with Talib.
Talib,
yes.
yeah.
Talib. I think that would be really, really good.
Yeah. All right. So we have several ideas. So we've got 2-3 weeks, and we'll see what we can do. All right. All right. So let's see, what is it? Today's Friday. So we got the next one is on Sunday. So, all right, folks. This was wonderful. Evanik, I am just delighted that you could hear most of yesterday's meetup, even though you missed it. So that was great.
It really was. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, I think having Yogeshwar over here has been so incredible. So I think I'm definitely going to miss him, and we'll see. We'll see what we can do. But it is very special to go through the Indian philosophy through him, because he's able to bring so much. Because I thought I could, I can read Sanskrit, and I'm reading Naneshwar and everything, but still I ended up getting so much, thanks to Yogeshwar. So I think we were very fortunate. All right. Thank you, everybody. See ya. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank